Hey there, Mark Brown.
Hey, Darren.
Life happens. Just because we're a
Yeah,
speaker does not mean we don't have normal lives. We don't have families. We don't have stresses. We don't have challenges. In fact, we have just as many as everyone else. The one bonus is we can turn it into a story that can help.
you're right. You're right.
If you're listening to this on one of the audio platforms, it might sound a little different than normal. The reason why is I'm on the road because life happens. So, I'm doing okay, but life is going to happen to you. What are some ideas? What do you go through? And just understand that the biggest lesson is you're not alone. Your friends understand, your clients understand. We'll get into that in just a sec.
Anyone can give a presentation. Few deliver unforgettable presentations. What's the difference? You're about to find out. Welcome to the Unforgettable Presentations Podcasts with your hosts, world champion speakers and coaches Mark Brown.
Your life tells a story, and there's someone out there who needs to hear it.
And Darren LaCroix.
Stage time, stage time, stage time.
Ready for some powerful presentation ahas? Let's dive right in.
Hey there, Mark Brown. So, yeah, just full transparency. I'm here in Cape Cod recording this live because my mom passed away over the weekend. So,
So sorry, Darren. So sorry about that.
yeah, thank you. I thought about what do I need to do? I need to jump on a plane, support my dad, support my sister. And so yesterday, we spent the time cleaning out my mom's room. A few choke up moments, a few tears, especially being there with my dad and my sister, and just, but I knew what I needed to do. And I thank God that I'm in this profession, which gives me that flexibility.
Mm,
If you have a regular job, then hey, there is bereavement. But what's cool about this job and this career is you got a little more flexibility, and because we travel a lot, you maybe got some miles you can use. But anyway,
mm.
so if the audio isn't as good, I apologize right up front. But I told Mark I still wanted to do this podcast. We've been doing this for what, 3 years now, and we
Five. Since 2019.
oops,
5 years.
5 years, and we haven't missed a week yet. So I have a responsibility. Now, I have a little gap between flying out here, getting things settled with my family, and now the funeral is and the wake is this weekend. So I have a few days to do a few things, plan on writing the eulogy with my sister and the onslaught of texts and people who care. And, that's one thing right up front, Mark. We have to let people help us, you know,
Mm,
when when things happen, sometimes because we choose to be speakers, sometimes that's because we have a giving heart and we want to give to other people, want to give to other people, want to help people, want to help support people. But you know, when I offer to help people if they're going through a tough time, I have to remind them, don't steal my joy to help you. You know?
mm. Yeah, I can appreciate that. I remember at one point, my wife planned an event for me, and it was like, looking back, I didn't really appreciate and respect, what she did to help me during a season of my life, and that was bad. But I really like what you say, Darren, because life is going to happen to us. Being speakers does not make us exempt from life's challenges. When we do face life's challenges, we need to be aware that, look, we here's the thing: we invest time and effort to build a professional network, right, for our businesses. But there are times we need to be honest and human, and you may have some really good friends who are pros in your network, but don't be unafraid or unwilling or ashamed to get support and help when you need it. And sometimes the best help you can get will come from your professional network.
Yeah, I mean, I had just bigged. So, by the way, those sounds of birds you hear in the background, that is not special effects. That is real.
That's beautiful, beautiful,
I have a
beautiful.
big speech that I just booked for a water park association in Las Vegas, and client is, it's very last minute. So we're 3, 4 weeks away, and the client's like, hey, I need an intro and I need the description right away to put on our website. So I, contact Jennifer, one of my speaker agents, and put her on it. But and I told them, I'm like, look, I'm sorry for the delay. I had to jump on a plane and I just lost my mom. So just give me a little grace, forgive me, and understand. And, people get it. They're understanding. The fact that I did respond to him was big to him. And he said, hey, don't worry. I get it. I've been through that myself. And
Mm.
you're going to have a lot of that, but don't be afraid to use that. The client gets it. Now, Mark, you and I know of speakers who I have the time. I'm doing some things virtually. You and I are coaching some clients in Australia later today. I can do that
Yes.
from here. Not the same as being in my office, but that's okay. The value is in helping them. So I was fortunate enough to be able to keep that commitment and not put it all on
Mm.
Mark. But what I love is my relationship with Mark, since we've been going back so long. He's like, whatever you need, whatever you need. And we have a stage time call on Wednesday. And, I reached out to one of my members because Mike, who usually hosts, isn't able to. So one of our members is going to step up, and they're like, don't worry, I got you. But this also goes back, Mark, to, relationships. Um,
Mm.
Meaning that relationship you and I have. I would do anything for you, and you're offering that to me, anything you can do. And I'm going to call you on that, on a couple of things. But
Sure.
I need to, because I need to take care of our stage time members. We need to take care of our clients, and we need to take care of ourselves. Mark, we're doing this podcast, and my sister and brother-in-law are like, hey, we're going to go for a walk. And I'm like, you know what? I could use the exercise, man. Meaning, I've been on a plane. I've been sitting with my dad. Been
Mm.
driving to and from Cape Cod. And so I'm like, you know what? I need that because I need to take care of myself. So Mark, that might be another good point. You gotta take care of yourself.
Yeah, self-care. Yeah.
And just a quick email to clients, to students, to people who look up to you, and there are equals. They get it, they understand, but we still need to be able to receive the help. And if I talk in circles, and you're listening to this, exactly my point. I'm asking for grace. Usually I'm adamant, I'm right on, and Mark's like, "Hey, we don't have to do this. We can skip a week." And I'm just like, "No, I like it's real, and I can breathe about it. I'm not missing on anything. I'm just in between things that I have to do here. I went to the funeral home yesterday with my dad, and I knew I needed to be there with them, and even though wasn't necessarily part of the planning, I was there, and I learned that
Mm.
from my aunts and uncles, and just, my mom and dad, they were always there. I knew that was my job, number one, be there. So, Mark, other thoughts?
Well, I'm listening to you, Darren, and I guess the word is admiration. But you made a point just now that I don't want anyone to miss. And individuals are going to handle life in different ways. So please don't think this is a standard that everybody must adhere to. But I noticed that it almost seems as if being active while you can with your work is almost therapeutic in the midst of your grief. In this particular case, the loss of your mother, which is just devastating. I get that. And I have, look, I want everyone to know Darren has my condolences. This is my brother. I love this man. We go back 25 years. And as he said, I'll do anything for him. But I'm watching him and listening to him and realizing that he still wants to serve his clients well. And in a sense, I get the feeling that when we're going through a dark time and difficult time, being able to at least engage to some degree with our clients, with our coworkers, with our associates, with our those who we work with, that can be actually helpful to us to give us a bit of a relief from the pain, the stress, in this case, the grief you're feeling. And I don't want to speak for you, Darren, but it certainly appears to be that way. How close am I to accurate regarding your personal situation right now?
Yeah, it's a form of therapy, and it's that volunteer principle. Like when you're down and you're depressed, one thing that's recommended is go volunteer somewhere. Just give. And
Hmm.
this is part of my giving because, we don't get $1 million check for each podcast that we put out there.
That would be nice.
That would be great,
And you,
though. If anyone would like to, we greatly receive that. But it's also, it feeds me to feed other people from the experience. All right, almost got stung by a bee. It's one of the things that keeps me going, serving. And I don't want to sound altruistic because some of it is selfish. It distracts me, and part of the time I need that. And I know I'm going to have my moments. I know when my dad breaks down, I break down, and I know,
Mm,
it hasn't fully hit me yet. And I think it will when I go to the wake. And I didn't see my mom. I wasn't there when she passed. I was actually on stage, Mark, at NSA
oh
Las
wow.
Vegas. And I got the text, from my sister and looked at it on a break. And, yeah. But, it also wasn't, kind of knew it was coming because I had a text the day
Mm,
before. And I was
yeah.
driving from California to Vegas. The point is, how can you also use your tragedies to help other
Mm,
people? And so that's why I
yeah.
want to do this real authentic. I got bags under my eyes. This is not makeup. This is not, they're real bags, and just want to be outside and have that opportunity. What can you do from the road? It reminded me of an idea too, that we usually, if you and I have busy travel schedules, we record a few extra podcasts, and we didn't because I was
Right.
around this week. So, lesson learned, we should always have one in the can just in case. But that's okay. So I'm glad that we don't, because it kind of forced us to do this one. But for future, what's the lesson here? Who can you lean on? I've got so many messages from NSA members, from my mastermind. That's one thing about I love
Mm,
in our mastermind is, I know I can reach out and transparently say anything to them. My men's small group, they have been
yeah.
awesome. Just knowing that, just it's like knowing that somebody else knows what you're going through, and they're, sending me messages, call me if you need to cry, call me, like, and then that gives me strength, even though I know I can, and if I need to, I will. But right now, just knowing you have that support. And
Mm,
for you and I, we get it, we understand, and that's why we wanted to do this. But your speaker friends, like the super friends, they get it and understand it, and will support you and know what they need to do to jump in. Now, Mark, I know of a few speakers that this has happened to. Something like this happens, and they like have the keynote speech the next day or in 2 days, and or they got COVID and they can't go.
mm,
Well, we also know who could deliver for
right.
the client, because the client can't cancel their convention or conference, but it's our responsibility to have that person we can recommend.
Yeah.
Why you're brought in there. Your topic. If, I'm brought in for storytelling, and talking about better stories, better business, I know I could call you or Chris McGuire or Michael Davis. I have those people, those resources that I could recommend. I just hope that they're not better than I am.
Well, the
But
thing is,
the client will be like, why did I hire this guy? This guy's so much better. And
no.
it's also, Mark, it's also kind of a standard practice, if people don't know this. If you're in grief somehow, or some tragedy happens, it's almost like an NSA, National Speakers Association rule, that I know of speakers that jump in for other speakers, and they don't
Mm,
want the money. You keep the money.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
jumping
yeah,
in
yeah,
to
yeah.
help a friend or a brother. Now, that's obviously case by case, but I just think that's such a beautiful thought and a beautiful gesture. But that's why we have brothers and sisters who are in the speaking world, that we know
Mhm.
who's good. We know who can fill in, that if we can't make it, here's who I'd recommend. And most of them are thrilled to do it, and thrilled you called them. What an honor to be called.
Yeah, that's what we call in the NSA the spirit of Cavett.
Mm.
Cavett Robert was the founder of the NSA, also a past Toastmasters world champion of public speaking back in '43, I think it was. But the spirit of Cavett is evident in professionals, and not everyone hearing this podcast is a professional speaker, but the mindset, the attitude is, these are my peers, my brothers and sisters, my family. How can I serve them? And at the same time, we would invite you when someone you know who's a speaker is facing a life, they should feel free or be confident enough that they can call on you
Mm.
and recommend you to their client because of the quality of your work. And that kind of speaks to our professionalism as presenters. When we serve well, we will get recommended at times, hopefully rarely, in a situation where you're asked to replace someone who is going through life because life does happen. And it's funny, I was telling, at a fitness class this morning, I told one of my classmates, that my partner Darren is going through this loss of his mom, and we have been making plans for me to go to Australia next week for these clients we're going to coach tonight. I'll be there with them when they present next week in Australia. And it's interesting because when we got the assignment, Darren made the decision. He made the executive decision to send me to Australia, not himself. And I could not foresee the timing here. It would have been so difficult for Darren to go to Australia next week and serve the client in that way. And it just so happens in this particular instance, he assigned me to go to Australia and he can be home with his family during the season.
Mm.
That was not foreseen. It was not prophetic. But I know, had I not been assigned to go and Darren said, Mark, I can't go, my family needs me, I'd say, yes, Darren, I will go. And in the same way, if I knew I have an assignment I could not fulfill, I said, Darren, I can't do this right now. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, if he could do it, he would not even think twice. That is the relationship we built together as two individuals, fellow speakers, but also these are the kinds of relationships we can build with our mastermind, with a cadre of individuals who we trust, those we go on retreats with. And we would invite you who are listening and watching this to think about how well can I serve my peers, my fellow presenters, my fellow speakers, my fellow coaches, my fellow trainers, so that when they go through a season when life happens to them, I can be of service to them. Whether you choose to receive the compensation or not, that's entirely up to you. But we ask you to lend your hearts each to the other, support each other, love on each other, because you never know when life can happen to you. And I'm pretty confident, without knowing for sure, there are individuals who are maybe watching or hearing this right now who are thinking to themselves, yep, I can recall being in a similar spot before, and I'm so thankful for those who helped me. Or they may say, yeah, I had a chance to help somebody in the past, and I'm so glad I did. We need to support, encourage, and help each other, whether we're emerging speakers or experienced seasoned pros. How we serve each other when life hits us is a mark of our professionalism, our heart, how we care for each other. And here's what I believe, this is Mark's opinion. If we can have that attitude towards each other, we can almost be guaranteed our clients are going to get the best from us no matter what the circumstance may be. When we actually go on a platform, when we visit a location, go to a conference, they'll see us with the servant's heart that we really need to have to be effective when delivering our messages. So I invite everyone to think about this. When life happened to you, who came to your aid? And when life happens to your friends, your associates, how quickly can you be supportive of them during their time of need?
Are you the speaker that they would turn to? Like, if you're not, make that your goal to become that speaker, to become
Yep.
unforgettable. Nobody wants to recommend somebody who's average,
Mm.
but it's a commitment. It's a commitment.
Right.
It's a choice, and you got to work a little harder. You got to take a little more coaching. You got to get a little more feedback. But if you're listening to this, here's a question to make this truly engaging. If this happened to you, who would you call?
Mm.
Who in your circle would you call to fill in for you? Just take a few minutes to think of that. And I encourage you, tell them you listen to this podcast, call them and tell them, say, hey, you know what? If something happened in my life, you would be the person I would call to fill in for me. What a great compliment that would be. What a great conversation that would be. So think about it. Even if it's 2 or 3 people, hey, I would call you. You don't have to just call one.
And one more thought to piggyback on that, Darren, a little tongue tied today. Would other people call you? Think about that. would your associates, your peers, your fellow speakers, would they call you when life happens to them? It's a bit of a challenging question, but I'm asking myself that question right now as well. Would other people call you? And as I think it through, I can recall instances where someone could not fulfill an assignment and they did call me, they did recommend me, I did serve the client, and thankfully the client then told my friend, my associate, I'd served them well. But yeah, those are two key questions. Who would you call and who would call you? Life happens.
I hope this has given you some insight, because if it hasn't happened to you, it will. Either a friend of yours going through this, speaker friend of yours, or you going through this. It's gonna happen. It's life.
Yeah.
And what's your backup plan? What is that? What's that plan if you can't do a speech? What's that? Now it's making me think, Mark.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. We can make people think we're doing our job well, right? Darren, my brother, I love you. I know it's a difficult season for you right now, and I'm so thankful that you chose to do this podcast with full transparency, complete honesty. I'm honored to be your brother. I love you dearly. I'm glad to be by your side, and I cannot believe it's been 5 years we've been doing this podcast, and we haven't missed a week at a time when we could. And that just shows your integrity, your heart, and your commitment.
Well,
I'm glad to help you.
Selfishness too.
Well, that's okay, because I said earlier, sometimes being able to finding a way to complete the assignment can actually be for you, for us, therapeutic. It gives us something to do. We still feel we're serving, and it gives us a moment in the midst of our grief for a bit of a reprieve. It may not be fully balanced. We may not be perfect. But I thank you for showing the world the significance and the value of still following through in the midst of your grief, because when life happens, sometimes we need different ways to cope. And I really appreciate your brother. I love you dearly, man.
Thanks, man. We'll do the one where I cry next week.
All right. We'll see you next week then. All right.
All right. See you next week.
Hey there, this is Darren LaCroix. Thanks for checking out this podcast episode on YouTube. If you want all of them, not every one is on YouTube, check out your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss an episode. Keep being a sponge so you can be unforgettable.
Check out StagetimeUniversity.com, where good presenters become unforgettable.